Hello, welcome back, fellow time travelers, to Bannworth Academy Ancient News, where archaeology, history, and the echoes of civilization are always breaking news. I'm your host, Dr. Tiffany Bannworth, and I'm also the founder of Bannworth Academy and lead adventurer. Today's episode is going to take us across the continents to a richly layered soil of the Indian subcontinent, where scripts speak, coins whisper, and stones still carry secrets. Joining us today is a scholar whose work bridges ancient inscriptions and modern technology, an adventurer not just with a fedora and a whip, but with digital tools and a mastery of forgotten scripts. From deciphering Brahmi to Kharosthi to designing immersive experience in Mauryan art, she's unlocking the voices of the past in the 21st century insight. So grab your trowels, dust off your curiosity, and get ready to journey into India's epigraphic heritage. Our guest today is Professor Mehak Sejwal. She's the assistant professor in the Department of Palaeography, Epigraphy, and Numismatics at the Indian Institute of Heritage. She holds a master's in the history of art from the National Museum Institute in New Delhi and is currently pursuing her PhD in digital humanities at IIT Jodhpur, where she's developing an immersive digital experience of Mauryan art and inscriptions. Professor Sejwal brings a uniquely interdisciplinary approach, blending history and technology. She's fluent in a range of scripts and has worked with leading institutions across India and cultural preservation, Buddhist murals, artisan documentation, and virtual reality exhibitions. She's a modern-day decipherer of the past, and she's going to help the history speak again. So you are quite an accomplished woman, and you haven't even gotten your PhD yet. You're still working on that and developing new technology along the way. So we are so excited to have you, and thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be here.
So am I, and thank you for having me.
You are our first guest to have all of these certifications. So normally we do a shortened interview, but because of you and your specialty, and you're our first glimpse at all of these subjects, we're going to go through the entire interview. Are you ready? Let's see your expertise. All right, so here we go. So coming to us from India, what first sparked your interest in ancient Indian art and inscriptions?
So I think this goes back to my school time. Basically, when I was a student, I was not very bright. So I was just a very average student, and that's me overselling myself. I was just at the bottom of the class. But that kind of changed when I took humanities. So in India, you have three disciplines. So there's humanities, there's commerce, and then there's science. So I took humanities, which was kind of looked down upon back when I was a student in school. And but that changed things. So I had this one teacher in school, Mr. Anjan Mandal, who was extremely passionate about things, and he used to teach us art and art history. So that is where I first started and leaned towards art history, because in his classes he would make you look at a sculpture and see how one simple thing can take you to economics, politics, religion, and everything that is there. So that's how art history happened. And then I took a safer bet, so to say, by doing my undergrad in history. But by the time I was doing my master's, I was pretty sure that art history was my calling. So went for that. And in that process, it was again a teacher who kind of sparked my interest in inscriptions, because she would walk in the class with the kind of confidence that I think very few people can possess. And she was absolutely amazing, okay? She is Professor Dr. Anupa Pandey, and she was splendid. I mean, her classes used to just, ignite anyone and everyone's interest in art. Even if you hated art, you sit in her class, and by the end of it, you would be mesmerized.
Wow.
And that was mostly because when she taught art, she would talk about anything and everything that you could relate to it. So she would talk about inscriptions, she would talk about coins, she would talk about primary sources, and she essentially taught me the importance of interdisciplinarity. So,
and you're teaching now too, so you might be that person for somebody else.
I hope so.
Right? So I'm going to interview somebody in a few years, and they're going to be like, man, that Professor Sejwal, she is what set me on fire for this profession. So you gotta
really
carry it down. So What can you share what your turning point experience? I mean, I think you kind of got into it. Your turning point was really great teachers, but what is that? What solidified your decision to pursue paleography and numismatics? I know by your master's you said this was your calling.
Yeah. So other than that, so my masters, in my masters, I had a lot of experiences, different experiences, which kind of, stream headed my decisions in life. One of them was this really amazing exhibition that was there, which
Oh,
was on. So, since I was a student at the National Museum Institute, we were in the museum, and that was the best thing that ever happened to me because every day we would meet different people, and whatever exhibition was being set up, we would be there and we were interacting with everybody, so on and so forth. So, one of the exhibitions that took place back when I was a student was by the Ministry of Culture, by an organization which was incubated at IIT Delhi, one of the best institutes in India, for technology, wherein they had taken heritage sites and they had digitized them. They had laser scanned them, and they had put up virtual exhibitions. So there were
oh
3D
wow.
models, there were virtual tools put up on big screens, and it was amazing. So you could just walk around in all those places. And this is 2019, so digital humanities and digital heritage was still relatively new, right?
Yeah.
And they had holograms. So they put up a temple,
Wow.
and now the temples were the places where dances used to take place. So imagine you going there, you bend down because you look down at the temple, and there's this hologram of people dancing. So
That's
that was
amazing.
just one amazing experience, and I am still underselling it. So in India, there's this one temple which has musical pillars. So you touch it and it plays music. So they had recreated
Wow.
that, and again, a major turning point in my
What was
life.
the name of this
So
museum again?
this
Oh,
was in the National Museum, and the organization was Vizara.
and what city is it in India?
Vizara is
Is that
now in
this?
Gurgaon.
Because I
Yeah.
think people are gonna. I mean, you're selling this museum. People are gonna want to go visit that place
It
after.
was a temporary exhibit, but
Oh,
they did put some of those things in the Dubai Expo as well.
oh, okay.
And so, of course, as a student, because the exhibition was there for a couple of months, I would be there every day. And we got talking, and that was my first internship on play. The one where I was actually working in office. I did that for them, and it was one hell of an experience. I can say that.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. I'm really big about like either artifacts or things being accessible to the public, either by staying in situ at the location where they were found or in a
Right.
museum. Because private collection, it's cool to own it, right? But it closes it off from the world. And actually, I
Right.
guess you could say your the concept of the holograms would kind of bridge that gap between private collection and being in place where the general public could see it. So that's such an excellent idea. I wonder why more um there's not
Because
more holographic things in like even the American ones. I mean, we do have things like there was Van Gogh has, Van Gogh, the Dutch painter. They had in America where his paintings would be like projected onto a wall and they would come to life, and that was cool. But not very many. Uh, there should be more. Now that I'm talking to you, there should be more holographic presentations. You've
you can
inspired
look
me.
forward for that.
Sides,
You can
right?
look forward for that coming from me in a couple of years.
Yeah, because India is very technologically advanced. So like I feel like even the basic person in India is like a million times better in technology than some of just the basic person over here. And that's such a good concept. And that was in 2019. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Good now.
let's see. It says here you've worked with numerous prestigious institutions. I'm assuming that might be your answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What's been one of the most memorable projects you've worked on so far? Is it the holographic, or is there something that tops even that?
Actually, no. It's something even better. And I mean, it's a
Really?
very personal experience. It doesn't have holograms and everything. But when I was working at the National Museum Institute as a research assistant, We went to one of those on a village outreach program. So now this school had 12 students from grade 6 till grade 12.
Okay.
So very few
A small
students,
school. Yeah.
very, very far off, and lacked a lot of basic facilities for the students. So it was very, very remote, right? And we go there, we're there for 3 days, me and my team being the guys setting up the entire exhibition for them. So they put up banners on the walls because there's not much that we could do in digital spaces, but we tried doing our best to, get those students interested. We put up small small little posters of art
Yeah.
objects, what they said, so on and so forth. And we were there for 3 days giving them presentations about how things are. And by the end of day 2, we decided to create a video. So, to make a video for the students. And so, we're recording everything, right? And on day 3, once we're done with everything that we're supposed to do, we play that video and the students are crying because they were so emotional. So now, because obviously in 3 days we saw the kids, we thought that, okay, you know what? Since you guys are so far off, why don't we give you some things? We'll contribute and we'll get you what you want in school. And they said that the only thing we want are teachers like you.
Oh.
And
So we don't even have to wait for the future. You've already done this to the younger generation. You've already
there's more in
inspired
the
them.
story.
Oh, let's
There's
hear
more
it.
in the story. So after they're crying, we have fun, we leave because we think, okay, now we have some time on our hands, so we can go travel somewhere, we can go to some place. We go back to our hotel, put our stuff there, we take a car back, and we had to cross the school. Now these 12 students are looking out of the window because they know we'll cross the school. They run out, all of them run out to the road, and both sides of the road they're giving us standing ovations. We stop the car and all
Wow.
of us are in tears seeing how emotionally attached these kids got. And I think this was 2020 and these kids still
Wow.
text us.
That's a beautiful story. So it's I'd love to see if any one of, if not all 12, end up finding you in the future and being like, I want to work with you, for you, wherever you're at, whatever project you're on. I'm going to ask you one more question, then we're going to take a short break.
Right.
So for our younger viewers, because we're talking about your impact on students, and which has already been a massive impact. For your younger viewers, would you describe paleography? Like, what is it and why is it important to history?
So, paleography, simply put, is the study of scripts. So, you learn one script, you see how people can write it in different ways. Imagine it this way, you know the Roman script, right? The Latin script. But every time we write it, we see that everybody has a different handwriting. We have different fonts to read it, and sometimes it's very difficult to read certain fonts and certain people's handwriting. So, as a paleographer, you do that for older people. It's people who are not there anymore, trying to read what they said, what they felt. Sometimes you could find love letters, sometimes you could find inscribed in stone the beautiful messages that they had, sometimes just completely random. Like one of my favorite kings and his inscriptions are the Ashokan inscriptions, okay? So across India, he wrote the same content in different dialects. So I think you would be aware of how India is very rich with the languages.
Yeah.
So Ashok is one of the proofs that shows us that even in the 3rd century BCE, we were equally rich. He writes the same content in different dialects across the subcontinent.
Wow. So, and then that's almost like the Rosetta Stone of India, then, because you know what it said. If you knew at least one of the dialects, you would be able to now translate all the other dialects that he said in all the continent.
But they're almost very similar. So he uses the title Devanam Piyadasi Asok. Ashok not really showing up in a lot of inscriptions, so he goes by Devanam Piyadasi, which can be written as Devanam Priyadasi, Devanam Piyadasi, Devanam Piyadasi. So that's the kind of small dialect changes that take place in the inscriptions, but it's actually very interesting to see. And the content too is also very interesting. So he is telling people how people should follow the path of righteousness, and how it is so important to follow the righteous path, to follow dham,
Yeah.
and how that is how you can be happy in this life. You should respect your servants, you should respect your elders. And he talks about vegetarianism in the 3rd century BCE. He's talking about constructing roads and so on. So it's damn
Wow.
interesting.
That's wonderful. That's across the board. It covers a lot of the history. You've really nailed on one of the ones that across the board could be something that the students first study, and it'll show them a huge snapshot of history. Well, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a break really quickly, and we'll be back maybe in a few minutes, and we're going to find out more and more about Professor Sejwal and her really interesting, really incredible story, and how impactful she's been. So we'll see you soon. Hello, welcome back. We're here with Professor Sejwal, and she's been teaching us all about Indian epigraphy, paleography, and numismatics. So let's get on to our next question. How do Indian scripts like Brahmi or Kharosthi differ from one another, and what can we learn from them today?
So for one, Brahmi and Kharosthi are written in opposite directions.
Oh, that's why we chose them.
Brahmi goes from left to right and Kharosthi goes from right to left. They're both from the 3rd century BCE, which essentially means, and they were both used by Ashok. So they're the first deciphered scripts from India. Kharosthi kind of disappeared after a point, maybe because it was a little more difficult for the Indian landscape. And it was mostly used in the Gandhar region, which is the Pakistan and Afghanistan. But of course, when we talk about ancient India, we're including all those in this great landmass, which, by the way, Ashok conquered. So for Brahmi, that script is the mother of all Indian scripts. Oh. So anything that originated in India post Ashok is kind of descendant of Brahmi. Urdu a little bit. So for Urdu, both Kharosthi and Urdu have a similar descent. So Kharosthi came from Aramaic, which is very related to and kind of connected to in some ways to Urdu. It's a later version, and Urdu is actually written in a different, it's almost Persian. The script is very similar to Persian. And also Urdu is a language.
Okay, yeah, and then not the writing, yeah.
Yeah, so yes, they are kind of connected with Kharosthi because both of them are written right to left, and both of them have connections with Aramaic. They were in similar regions, but not directly so. Brahmi, no.
Did you say Aramaic? Did you just say like Jesus, the language that Jesus spoke, Aramaic? Oh, so it originates and is connected. Oh, that's very interesting.
Yes, because so for Ashok, he writes his inscription in 4 scripts. There's Brahmi, which is in most of the Indian subcontinent, Kharosthi in the Gandhar region, and then he has Greek and Aramaic inscriptions too. So pretty big landmass, pretty big pretty big place to work on, and he was kind of an influencer back in his time, so he was changing things based on what his audience was.
So his reach was wide.
Very wide. Yeah, imagine almost the entire India, then the entire Pakistan and parts of Afghanistan. And then he switched to Dham and non-violence. So he was propagating himself through the peaceful path. And he is remembered by the entire Southeast Asia, China, and Sri Lanka. He's revered in all these places.
Wow, I'm learning from you. I'm glad we did this interview. So I'm your student now too. So I'm yeah, and you're doing great. So I can personally recommend you. I'm learning stuff as we go. Our next question is, can you walk us through what an inscription can reveal about life in ancient India, like the everyday life type of thing? Like I know you mentioned that,
Everything.
like you did love letters and stuff like that. Is there any one that you really loved? Any particular inscription of the common day man? You know?
So far, what do you think of Ashok?
Well, I mean, he's this so far. This is very interesting. Everything that you said is widespread. It's full. He's got two different paths. You can see it when the peaceful or the peaceful and everything.
Right.
But like, is he an everyday? Is this an everyday person, or is this like a?
Since I've been talking a lot about him, I think I'll take his example. Now, there's this place, Sarumaru in Madhya Pradesh, where there is pretty much the reconstruction of whatever he's writing everywhere. It's a minor edict. We'll get into the details later, maybe. But so in this one place, he has this one inscription, very badly written, where he's writing that before he was king, he had come here with his unwedded girlfriend. So that's interesting, no?
Yeah. Did they end up marrying and becoming queen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We assume it's Kharosthi who Ashok really loved. There are a lot of romance shown in the modern representations of Ashok. She is considered to be the primary queen in most modern representations, but of course we can't be very sure.
Right.
Then about normal life, he is teaching people about stuff like non-violence, like I said. He is saying that you should respect your parents, you should respect elders, you should not kill anybody, you should switch to vegetarianism. So he's saying that we can, so through what I've said, we can know about the food they were eating. They were non-vegetarians. They used to eat deers and peacocks. Those are the two animals that he was. Those
Deer,
were the
I
two
can
animals.
see. That's interesting.
And these are the two things that he kept for himself while turning vegetarian. So he said that initially thousands of animals were being killed every day in the royal kitchen, but now he's switching. Now he's going to vegetarianism because at this point only 2 deers and 1 peacock are being killed, and these 2 will be stopped.
Oh wow.
So I suppose the 2 most difficult animals to stop eating.
Yeah, I guess so. Are there any evidences of people who were like practitioners or listening to what he said? Any type of like feedback from them saying like, "Ooh, this is a good idea. I stopped eating meat because."
Not feedbacks, because script on stone is relatively new at this point.
Okay.
But there are evidences in the same inscriptions, at least the major ones, where he writes that people are supposed to listen to this regularly, and he mentions that this day of this month, and these are the timings when these should be heard and repeated.
Oh wow.
So
he gave you exact periods. Is it like a daily thing that they go through the rules or so ever?
Not daily thing, but like on specific occasions, it's good to listen to these. And then the other inscriptions that he has, it talks about, I mean, of course, we can talk about donations through these inscriptions. A lot of them, most of them are donative inscriptions. A lot of times we can identify and relate the sculpture on top with the label inscriptions, which I think is also relevant in America and Europe.
Yeah.
The label inscriptions. And so inscriptions can just tell you anything and everything about times if you have the courage to read between the lines. But I think my most favorite inscriptions are the ones where people are talking about themselves. So the king is like, I am this great. These are called prashastis, where the kings are just exaggerating anything and everything. And sometimes inscriptions lie. So imagine for the longest time you're not connected to a person. Suddenly, so suppose I am king, I will talk about what dynasty, what lineage I belong to, right? I didn't do that, but say my grandchild decided to write that. So those are the things where we can identify that, okay, now the king is lying. And that's why it's very important to read inscriptions like puzzles.
That's right, put it all together.
Yes, and then of course, when we're reading inscriptions, we have to go through the primary sources, through art, and
Yeah.
correlate all of them. So I think inscriptions, epigraphy in general, is such an interdisciplinary and beautiful subject that actually links everything together because you
I,
can't read an inscription without knowing all of it.
without the context, I feel like it's almost like reading modern day resumes and like the
Yes,
curriculum vitae, where it's
kind of,
like, did they
yes.
lie on it or is it true? I got to corroborate this. So I
True.
definitely know, I definitely have met a few people who have lied on their resumes to me, and then I hired them and I was like, what is happening right now? So I guess that happened in ancient times too. Just it's just
Definitely
the
did.
way of the world.
Yeah.
So you also do coins as well, which is really interesting. So what's one of your most fascinating inscriptions or coins that you've personally studied?
Coins, I think I'll go with the most I think I'll go with Panchma coins. So these
Okay.
are the most ancient ones. They don't have scripts, but they have symbols.
Are they made of
So
metal or are they like
yes,
stone?
silver
Metal?
mostly,
Okay.
but other metals also, but mostly silver. And these are really interesting because they don't have anything other than symbols on them.
Oh wow.
So, so no script, no faces. The way we see coins, definitely not like them, and not even a proper shape. So, what used to happen is that they would get a piece of metal, they
Yeah.
would punch marks on them, and suppose the weight is higher, so they'll cut it off from the edge. So, half the times, the symbols that we have on those coins, they are also chopped off.
Oh wow. So like those coins where if you had one coin it was a set amount, or was it based on how much silver? Like did they weigh it and stuff?
So they were weighing it because they do follow weight standards of coins, and
So they weighed it ahead of time. So if you had that coin, it was worth a set amount. Two coins,
yes,
size, whatever. Got it.
yes. And what's also interesting is that they follow the same symbols. So suppose you have five symbols on a specific coin from a specific place, it would have five symbols every single time.
Oh,
But those would not be in the same places. They can be
you just have
chopped
to look
off.
for them.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And also interesting is that we don't know when they started. So we have literary sources of coins existing from the time of Buddha, but we can't really corroborate with the dates because how do you do that?
And there's no dates on them. And if they were, they may have been
Right?
cut off. Who knows?
There's no text on them. They're just
Yeah.
symbols.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. Did different
Yeah.
regions have different symbols, or was it just
Yes.
like, yeah, so that's even
Yes.
more diverse.
Yes. They're very interesting. I can send you a couple of pictures if you're interested.
Oh, I would love to see that.
But also, before coins actually came into existence in India, there are a lot of things that we were using for exchange. So everybody knows of the barter system.
Right.
But and everybody had like these things that they were using before coinage actually came into being, right? So what the Indians were using were cauries, seeds, ratti. We have
Oh,
these.
wow.
So we were using seeds, rattis. That's the way, the measuring standard that we still sometimes use, and which was definitely prevalent till the British came to India. And other than that, also
Did they
they
use the
used to use
seeds? Like
seashell.
when they
Yeah,
got the seeds, was it so that they would plant it, or did they just keep it like money?
they would circulate that, and that's like the weight standard that they had. They were also
So they didn't plant these
shells that they
seeds
were
ever.
switching. What?
They didn't plant the seeds. They didn't like grow a crop from it. They
Not
just used
really.
it
And
as currency. Yeah.
so these were very interesting, and these have been very important. So even now, when sometimes people go shopping, they say we want this much ratti. So ratti referring to the seed, the weight
Oh,
of the
wow.
seed, which is still a standard. And the most important thing, however, was the gopooch, the
Ooh, what's
cow's
that?
tail.
The cow's tail?
Yeah.
I love that.
So, so when you donate an animal, you donate them with the tail. So you hand over the tail, saying that this animal is now yours.
Oh, wow.
And
And
so
then,
when
so the amount of cow's tails was the value of money? Oh,
yeah.
that's wild. I love that.
So of course that's for bigger transactions when you can't really exchange seashells. But yeah, that was also there.
Oh, that's cool. I love that. Um, that's I'm telling you, I'm just learning. I'm learning so much in our small time together. Let me see here. So what we just basically talked about what role coins played, understanding Indian dynasties and trade. Did you want to add anything to that, or go on to the next
So for
question?
dynasties, this is till the Mauryan time, supposedly till the British came to India, and then we got influenced by the Indo-Greeks, and then we have dynasties. We do understand about trade a lot, so we can find Roman coins here, we can find a lot of exchange going on here and there. But as for dynasties, we can find about marital alliances.
Oh
So
yeah,
who married who? They would mention
yeah.
that. Yeah, so for example, the Lichavi princess is mentioned in a Gupta coin. Then there are coins that talk so the Gupta period had very interesting coins which shows the lyrist type. So you'll see the king with a musical instrument, usually the veena.
Oh wow.
So
So
because
they made new coins every time somebody got married. Every
not
kind of a
always,
king.
but there are instances where they talk
Yeah.
about who got married, the marital alliances,
Oh, that's
and we
interesting.
can
And the
find
what and
proofs of
and
that.
the music.
And we can find proofs of that, of course, in the literary sources.
That's cool too. There
So
must be so many coins in India, I imagine. There's just so much, and so for you to have such a hold on like all of it, that's really awesome. Yeah, definitely send me some stuff. That'd be interesting. In fact, I could probably I could put up a visual in here so that the listeners can see the coins you're talking about as well. But very
okay.
cool. Are there any surprising facts about coins from the Mauryan or what you're talking about, the Gupta period that most people don't know, which I think is everything you just said. but but tell us more. Tell us more. We're all listening.
So for modern period, we have a lot of issues dividing which coins actually belong to that period. There's a lot of confusion on that, but we have kind of decided that we do call the imperial series and Panchma coins the we associate them to the Mauryan period, but I think talking about that would get into a lot of depths for the other dynasties. So with the coming of Indo-Greeks, we start having the royal portraitures, right? So
Yes.
initially we kind of follow the Greek standards, then we start innovating, especially with the Gupta period. We also play with the scripts. So where we are, we change the script there.
Oh
So
yeah.
if we're in the Indo-Greek region, we write Greek, then we come down to Kharosthi, then the more
Yeah.
we enter into India, the present day India, we start using Brahmi and the variations thereof. And so on that note, another very interesting coin is of Muhammad Gori. So we consider Gori to be the person who comes in India, plunders everybody, breaks temples, converts a lot of people to Islam, and we see him in very bad light. But while he was here, he actually got coins issued with Lakshmi on them.
Oh,
Lakshmi is the Hindu goddess of money,
oh wow.
and he writes his name in the Devanagari script. So even the people we consider very ruthless kind of have to change when we get to coins.
Is
Because
Lakshmi is like a common girl's name too, isn't it? Because I know
yes,
somebody named Lakshmi. Yeah.
yes,
Oh, so it's
because she,
the goddess of money, you say?
yeah, the
Oh
goddess of wealth,
wow.
yeah. And also, so even in the Indo-Greek period, we only know of a lot of kings through their coins. We don't
Yeah.
have any other reference to them. So very interesting. So we usually, especially in India, and I think a lot of other places also in the world, we don't really pay a lot of attention to inscriptions and coins because we think, what can they say? And it's too much work reading through them
Yeah.
when they actually can be of so much value.
Wow. Yeah, and there's so much to know. And it could almost be like its own specialty. So if you
It
had,
is.
well, how would students who want to get into this, students or even just like armchair enthusiasts who want to learn more about Indian numismatics, how could they begin studying that today in India and around the
So,
world?
so for Indian coins, I think students can go to the museums. There are a lot of museums that display coins. Other than that, they can actually check out a lot of websites which have great catalogs and collections of museums. they can go through those. There are books that have been written, and at least what I do with my students is when they come to class, when I'm first teaching them about numismatics, I would take my coin collection to them and show them and ask them, what do you think? What do you see in these coins? And it's especially important when there are commemorative coins.
Oh, yeah.
So when you commemorate something, so I'll be like, okay, now what do you see on this? And what do you understand from this? So suppose it's an event. So when you look at this event, when you say 75 years of independence, what does that mean? If it was minted in this year, 75 years are completed. Thus, it talks about how important an event it is, how important whoever is depicted on the coin could be, and so on. So it's me trying to open up their vision to see again what is not being said, what has not been written, but the possibilities that are endless.
Now, what's just fun that you say, because with my students, we'll read a biography or whatnot, and then at the end of the biography, we've learned about these people's lives. I have them design, like on a piece of paper, they draw a commemorative coin. So they pick their favorite aspect. I've had some probably my favorite coin that my classes designed, like that, everybody turned in their own version of it. We had some really great ones for Jane Goodall. She's like a primatologist. Yeah, so she I was lucky enough to meet her, and I brought I have 8 children, and I was pregnant with my 8th, and I brought my oldest child, my oldest son, with me to meet her as well. And now my class has made a coin to commemorate her. I mean, on paper, but if anything, I think it'd be interesting as the students are older and more skilled to see if they can make it in clay. And so maybe I'll be sending you some nonsense in the future of handmade commemorative coins of various historic people or people who are still living. But let's get into more of, because you're also a digital humanist. So let's start talking about digital humanities and technology. How are you currently incorporating digital tools in your current PhD research at ITT Jodhpur?
So with my current PhD, like I said, it's focused on the Mauryan dynasty, and we have a lot of things going on. So when we look at people from the Mauryan times, we think of the kings. Mm-hmm. We think of Chanakya, who wrote one of the greatest treatises on economics back in the day. And that's about it. We talk about Chandragupta, Bindusar, Ashok, and Chanakya. That's it. 4 people, and the dynasty finishes for us. Okay, and sometimes we talk about how Ashok's daughter took the Bodhi tree to Sri Lanka as a peace offering to them and to teach them about the Buddhist Dham or the Buddhist Dharma. But there are so many other details that are there. For example, the kind of things Chanakya says in his book, the Arthashastra, or as Kautilya, how are they actually applicable in the dynasty? And since the first inscriptions that we find are from the Mauryan dynasty, how are they being influenced from whatever was there before them? So the preceding dynasties. And in India, in India, we had the Indus Valley civilization, one of the 4 ancient civilizations of the world. We can't read their script.
Really?
But they had like this really great civilization, very, very urban for their times, with roads crossing at 90 degrees, urban sanitation, a lot of emphasis on privacy, with walls they would just not allow windows that can, peep into your house. Yeah. There was sanitation. Every house had a toilet back in the day. They had a proper drainage system taking it away. Now, suddenly after the civilization, there's not suddenly, but there's a decline, and then we don't find a lot of material evidence from the time. So how and if the Mauryan dynasty was actually influenced by the Indus Valley civilization, or how the supposed dark age that we don't really agree with anymore was actually maybe switching to wood and perishable material, because in Arthashastra, Kautilya says that wood is better than stone.
Really?
And then suddenly we have Ashok who is writing everything down on stone. So the kind of switch that is taking place, the possible things that are happening there. So that's the major thing that I want to show to people through the digital tools by creating an immersive experience of how things would actually be, how you can actually see the space, reconstruction of places, how things are getting influenced from the previous times, creating stories out of it. So, for my current PhD, I'm essentially working on recreating everything that was probably there in the modern times. Normally, when we see history, we see one aspect of it, and I'm trying to bridge everything together. So,
Hmm.
amalgamating everything together from inscriptions and art because they are like the visual representations which by default go into the literary sources, and through that I mean using that I want to create a digital repository, a digital museum, a
Oh,
virtual museum that you can see. But since I specialize in scripts, I also want to teach people how to learn scripts. So I
yeah.
plan on creating a script learning app, kind of like the ancient Duolingo, which I
That'd
think
be
is going,
awesome.
yeah, that's like the main thing. But I also want to look at the inscriptions through a linguistic aspect, and I'm using tools like the Voyan tools and so on and so forth. So depending on what I'm doing at that particular time, I go and switch between tools.
That's perfect. So what challenges then are there on digitizing ancient inscriptions? If you're moving towards that, like, have you come into any roadblocks that make it difficult?
A lot actually.
Hmm.
So for one, my training was in humanities. So switching to tech is a bit difficult. But other than that, I think I'm getting over that. And then humanities comes in because I mean it's 2300 years old. So that by default means that there are going to be a lot of problems in procuring sources.
That's
So
true
that is
too.
one thing.
So
And
we
then
need to
permission.
partner you with a museum so that you can
Not just a
access all of
museum.
their stuff.
Not just a museum. I think I can manage partnering with somebody, but the problem lies in actually not having those things.
Uh,
So say 100 years back, suppose something existed, we can't be sure if it's still there. It's now in some personal collection. It's now in a different place. The inscription has deteriorated so much that it doesn't even look like an inscription anymore. And those are the problems that are actually challenging because to digitize anything, I first need the physical thing, right?
yeah,
And also even the texts that are there. So, for example, let's say the Arthashastra has only one manuscript in the entire world, which has
wow,
been read at least, or at least one that I know of.
right,
Would somebody really give you that manuscript to read?
right. Well, you know that they have been in different parts of the world. They have been able to digitize reading very deteriorated scrolls that are still rolled up, and they're able to do
Correct.
the different layers and make it into a script without ever taking it apart. So as technology advances, maybe even those like faded scripts could come back to life and retell the story.
So I know for a fact that Mythic Society is working with the organization that has the script and is digitizing it. But the problem lies in the fact that with India, suppose I want to do suppose I want to use Voyan tools, one of the tools which actually works with the script. It tells you the patterns that a language is using. It's not friendly with the Prakrit that we use
Yeah.
In Ashokan times. And so the problem starts with not having the basic structure, the physical forms with me,
Yeah.
and permissions become difficult with that. But it also goes on to these things that when we look at digital humanities, it's essentially focused on English, it's Eurocentric or focusing on America. So
Yeah.
it's challenging, but it's actually fun. I think had I had all the great opportunities that English would have, it wouldn't have been that much fun.
You
And I
should.
know that I'm doing something for the first time, so that's
That's
great.
that's incredible. It's historic.
Yeah.
And then well, I'm gonna ask you one more question before we take a short break. Could you explain what an immersive experience in Indian art and inscriptions might look like using your digital tools?
So, like I said, one would be the script learning app.
So it would be an
And
app for everybody, not just in the museum, but everyone could download that
no,
on the phone, and it could
yes.
be across the world. People could learn this. So that's another way students could pick up, the subjects that you
Precisely.
have an expertise in.
Then another thing that I want to work on is creating OCR for scripts.
Oh,
So imagine going to a site, clicking a picture of an inscription, and that being transliterated in front of your eyes.
that's
So you
awesome.
can read what is there even if you don't know the script. And that's just one way of that's just one of the things. Then there are virtual museums and linking it in a digital form. So there's a physical copy of something, and then you have a digital copy. You can go to a museum and get maybe a physical thing from there. A lot of ideas. Let's see how many of them actually take shape.
Hey, you can be working on this for the rest of your life. I'd love to see all the stuff
Sure
you churn
am.
out. So,
So
okay,
that's
we're
the
gonna.
thing.
Oh, what were you gonna say?
That's
Continue.
the thing. With me, I know for a fact that I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, but I think PhD is just going to be a stepping stone for what is there in the future.
I love it. I love that. And you have a lot to offer too, so I'm excited to stay in contact with you. Well, we're going to take a short break. So we will be back in a few minutes. Everybody, it's been super exciting to listen to her. I almost want to get a notebook and take notes. So on our short break, guys, anybody who's listening, get a notebook and take down all the stuff she's saying. This is very important. We'll be back in a flash. We'll see you soon. Hello, welcome back to Bannworth Academy Ancient News. We have Professor Sejwal, and we're just getting into more language and scripts, and we're just going to continue. She's been a wealth of knowledge, and when you see what she's working on in the future, you'll be excited that you've heard her name first here, because you're definitely going to hear about it more in the future. So let's get on to our next question. You're well read. You've studied a range of scripts, Persian, Latin. We were talking about Brahmi, all of it. How does that multilingualism help you and enhance your research? Because you're able to jump through all of them.
So it actually helps in many ways. Suppose I want to work on, say, a painting. Knowing the text, knowing what language it was written in actually adds a lot of value to it. So
Yeah,
mostly when we study art or in any text for a matter of fact, we usually read translations.
yeah,
And somewhere the translation is not able to do justice to the text,
yeah. Lost in
right?
translation, as they say. Yeah,
Yes. So for that, I feel that knowing at least the basics of languages helps you to see what you otherwise would not have. So what I usually do is, because honestly it's very difficult to read anything in original sources because you need a lot of mastery, you need to be like a native speaker to
right.
understand a lot of things. So I usually have a translation and the original copy with me, and every time I see something very interesting, I go back to the original and I'm like, oh, what is it, what are the exact lines that are there, I need to know this. And then that really adds value to it. But in inscriptions, of course, knowing a language always comes in handy
Yeah,
because we're essentially dealing with text. But other than that, also, even with with primary sources and text, I find it so interesting. So, one of the so there's this one text, the Shiv Puran, and I think I have two very interesting examples from that. Now, Purans essentially talk about Shiv Puran essentially talks, and Purans in general, the multiple Purans that we have in India, and mostly they have the name of a deity before it. So Vishnu Puran, Shiv Puran, so on and
yeah,
so forth. So they're religious texts which talk about how and why you should worship somebody, their story, the story behind the deity, their life, so on and so forth. And suddenly, and that's how I got into reading the Shiv Puran because I had a fascination with Shiv, and Purans have always been attracting. So I got reading, and the first instance that I came across was that it actually mentioned, and I kid you not, it tells you the detailed process of how you wake up, go and pee and poo.
wow. Well, in case there's any
So
question, there's something to read.
Yeah, I mean, that entire process is explained. So you wake up, you go there, and this is very old, right? So this is pre flushing. So it tells you how you should
That's
go, how you
so,
should feel.
but it's true though, because I mean, I know it seems just like funny, but like there's a lot to say between even the differences in like Asian squatting toilets and sitting toilets, because they say that the
Right.
squatting toilets are much, much better for you. So I could even see where in a modern text that some expert would say, this is what you do and this is how you do it. And it seems like something so mundane, but a lot of people have all types of problems that would be alleviated by knowing the correct way. So that's
Right.
it's so good that they have that out there.
And I think the beauty in this lies in the fact that we often say that we've lost our history.
Yeah.
But I think what we've lost is the connection to what is written. If we
Yeah.
actually got into reading it, we can actually recreate and reconstruct a lot of what we think we've lost. I mean, if we're talking about tea and poop, I mean,
Yeah.
what's
What
there
else is
that
there?
that would not have been written?
Exactly,
Right?
right? Oh, I love that. That yeah, and that's the thing though, is like it's not so much I wonder if the history is being lost as much as the public interest in history has been lost.
Precisely.
And so it's there. It's just we have to get the youth and everybody like into like why we should know this. I mean, the good and the bad history. In America, we kind of have a situation going on where they're trying to just ignore and delete anything that makes America look bad type of thing. There's a lot of what's the word? Cancel culture over here. But like when you learn the bad history too, it means you're not going to be doomed to repeat it. So you learn from the mistakes. If you
Precisely.
just throw it out, then it's like somebody's going to make that mistake again and not realize how horrible the after effects are. So yeah, that's we just need to renew in general. We just need like to breathe life into the cultures so that all of the young people are like, this is so cool, this is so awesome. Or I taught at a museum locally that was originally it was a science museum, and then they absorbed the local history museum, and they had hired me to teach history. I used to do history Saturdays with Dr. Bannworth, and the problem that they had was that in America, science museums are usually very kiddish, and history museums are very adultish. And so they were trying to, now that they were merged, they were trying to make science attractive to adults and history attractive to children. So it's like across
Right.
culture, it's always it seems that it's like the adults that care about history. But to start young is going to change how you form into an adult, who you are, what's important to you, how to, behave as a citizen. Well, can you share a time when script analysis helped you solve a historical mystery or even corrected a previous misunderstanding? Not necessarily your misunderstanding, or maybe a misunderstanding about how this particular history was known.
So I think script analysis is has always been there, has always been very important, because imagine if there were no inscription, if you could not read any inscriptions, how would you ever get through any knowledge, right? If you had not
Yeah.
known the scripts, we would never have known history, so to say.
There's like it
And
would be all left up to interpretation. Although
right,
sometimes even
precisely.
modern day text messages, if you don't understand the tone behind it, sometimes you can even misunderstand text, you know?
Precisely.
Yeah.
So, for example, in the Indus Valley civilization, we always say whatever we don't understand, whatever this object is, we just assume that this is a religious object, which I think is true across the globe.
Mm.
Whatever we don't understand must be a religious object. Now, imagine 10 million years down the lane, somebody finds our civilization once doomsday has happened,
Yeah.
and they see something as mundane as, say, a water bottle,
Oh yeah.
or say
Religious
some.
object. No.
Yes, precisely, that would be very weird. And
Yeah.
thus scripts become very important. Scripts and language analysis becomes very important, because without that we would never really understand what it is. And I think one example that I can give you from India would be the first time foreigners saw Brahmi script, they thought it was Greek.
Oh wow. And then how was that
And
cleared up? how did people realize it was what they were looking at?
So nobody would read it when they knew Greek. That was one.
Oh,
Then
well,
over time, they deciphered a later part of Brahmi, the Gupta Brahmi, and then eventually they kind of connected the letters and realized that this is a different script altogether. And even though it might look very similar to Greek, it's very different too. And we don't really have a clear origin of Brahmi. So for a lot of scripts, we see evolution taking place. With Brahmi, it just pops up when Ashok decides to put inscriptions across the country. And so that's one thing. So it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And every inscription that we know of is because we know the script. So it has been doing that all across.
Well, all of your work is, like you said, amalgamating history with technology,
Right.
and that's going to be very important in the 21st century. So if there are instructors or schools that are looking into your PhD work, which I think is going to be monumental, how can they take this amalgamation of history with technology and have educators bring your research of ancient history alive in their own classrooms? Now, I know we've talked about different apps and stuff like that you're in the process of designing. We can't say too much about it because it is groundbreaking. But how can just the everyday educator incorporate your type of PhD work after it's published? How can they get that into the classrooms across the globe?
I think, and this might be very problematic when I say this, but maybe by understanding that the way we teach history can be very boring for students. I
Yeah.
can say that for my school at least. Back when I was in school, I almost hated history until I found this one teacher again, Dr. Mudita Sharma, who was also very amazing. And she was the reason why I kind of switched to history. And then 11th, 12th, I had Nishi Manglik Mang, also amazing. So these, and you know that, like I just said, teachers
It's
have been
great
my driving
teachers.
force. So I think teachers kind of need to revamp the way they teach, and
Yeah.
also the syllabus. I think we focus on what happened. Teach, we try to teach everything, and in the process, nobody learns anything.
Yeah.
For most people, when I say that I love history, they think that, oh my god, you like memorizing dates. But then I personally I feel that dates can be like a,
You can look them up.
yeah, I mean, nobody really remembers dates.
Yeah. It's
And
telling the story, the
yes,
understanding that comes from it.
and if you know the story, you can easily know the dates.
Yeah.
You put it in your timeline. This happened, this happened, this happened. This must have happened roughly between this period. And I don't think most people are actually looking for the exact date and hour, right?
Yeah.
Which a lot of times we ask, which makes it boring for everybody. So that's one. The second thing, like I said, the Vizara exhibition at the National Museum was amazing. It actually got a lot of people interested
Yeah.
because there were shows going on, there were audio visuals, stuff like that actually gets people interested.
Yeah.
And I think that visuals actually talk louder than words.
Oh, for sure. And not only
Yeah,
that, but there's like you said, history, to your point, a lot of times history is seen as just a professor who's like, for some reason, all the history professors are monotone and they're just droning on. They're like, and the dates of this, and people are going to sleep here. But it's not only that, even if you had a really expressive speaker, some people don't learn just by hearing. They're not auditory learners.
precisely.
And when you talk about different types of learning, you talk about not only that, but students with special needs that need to be taught in a different way. This multi-sensory approach really makes history come alive. And the stuff that you're working on and is going to reach not just the traditional type of droning on of history in a museum where they all have this accent for some reason, but also it's going to be exciting and interesting, and people can almost put themselves into the everyday life of the history that you're talking about. I think that's like the best time is when the students who are listening to your instruction feel like they're there. They feel like they're actually there, not just
Precisely.
a bunch of dates and a bunch of names and whatever. and you're trying to keep up because a lot of these times they're not modern names. So you're trying to be like, what was that again? But, to feel that you were there for it, the battles and the breakthroughs and even the things that were soul crushing, the losses and stuff like that, to really feel it and commiserate with that is how I feel like you learn. And definitely when you make an emotional connection to something, it stays with you. So,
which I think digital and technology has the power to do. But
yeah.
I feel that we also need to be very cautious about things, because if we have too much technology, we kind of lose touch to the physical aspects, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
like you were
feel
saying, you don't want them just to see the thing. You want to encourage them to go in person to the real
precisely,
site. Yeah.
right. So I want to use technology as a tool and the
Not the only
history
tool.
as the
A
actual thing.
bridge. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's wild. I mean, to imagine to know what you're looking at before you get there and to inspire the students to travel all over the world. Because I feel like now a lot of people are like staying put, and it's whether people think travel is dangerous now or whatever. It's the idea is that this whole world is a world that is to be shared, cultures to be shared, information and history to be explored, and to inspire people to really want to go to these favorite sites, especially in your own. It's like each historian's personal, this should be their personal work to inspire people to come to their sites and their knowledge bases. So you can not only teach a newer generation, but really to invigorate a country, because the tourism and all of that also helps to revitalize the financial aspect of it as well. Um,
Precisely.
I'm in. When should I book my ticket to India? I'm gonna come and we'll
Any
see
day.
you. I gotta wait for your PhD to be finished, so that way you can talk freely with me about everything that you're working on, and instead of being like, now Tiffany, if you came in 2 weeks, I would be able to tell you this. So I gotta wait. I'm gonna wait until you're done. You have to tell me. We'll celebrate. I'm gonna fly in. So
So you can come to India even now, and we can go to places.
we'll do it twice. I'll come back both times. You can't get rid of me now. Aren't you upset that you did this interview? Because now you got a lifelong friend.
I am happy about it.
Well, let's talk about advice for students and scholars that want to follow in your footsteps. So what advice do you have to students, especially even young women that want to enter into this field?
I think follow your passion. It, at least from my example, I know that if you're genuinely passionate about it, something or the other will happen.
Yeah.
So there's this really beautiful dialogue from a movie that I absolutely loved as a child. This is Om Shanti Om, and Shah Rukh Khan, who's one of the great actors of India, says this: जब तुम किसी चीज को पूरी शिद्दत से चाहते हो तो सारी कायनात उसे तुमसे मिलाने की साजिश में जुट जाती है, which is one way to say that when you want something from the bottom of your heart, the entire universe works in order to get this thing to you.
Wow. And that has been true to you, because we were talking a little
Yeah.
bit off camera about how a lot of the ways that you've kind of risen so quickly in your field were incidental meetings. Just
Yes.
somehow you met somebody that was exactly who you needed to meet, you were supposed to meet, and it got you exactly where you wanted to go.
Yeah.
So you're living it. You were inspired by it, but you're living that as
Precisely.
well.
And I think that initially, all of us want this stable job at 20, but be settled by 25, have a pretty great career by 26, and like be living on top of the world. But good things take time, right? So
Right, absolutely.
I think if you go slow and also take risks. So in India, nobody studies what I study, which means that there's no
You're going to
competition.
corner the market. You're going to be the one who
Yeah.
knows it all, right?
Exactly. And even if you don't know it all, I feel that when you actually follow your passion, and especially if it's not the mainstream, you can actually learn a lot. Because, we have enough engineers in India, especially, right? How many
Well,
engineers does the world want?
I don't know, but the way you guys are teaching technology over there must be top notch, because like you said, there's lots of like doctors and different, technologies that are rising out of India. So that's something we can learn too. And then here's something that you may have touched on, but what's a myth or a misconception about Indian, your area of ancient history, or that you would like to correct, just as a farewell comment to what's something you want to say? You want to set the record straight today by Professor Sejwal. What is it?
I think the entire history.
It's so you believe it's being taught differently than it is in
Yes.
actuality. Yeah.
I mean, I feel that Indian history is so beautiful with the way we know history. It's like a lot of people happen, a lot of things happen simultaneously. There's similar names and so on and so forth. When it's actually beautiful. It's one of the it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever come across. And once you actually see it through the right lens, you
Yeah.
just see that there's not one, but so many of them.
Oh, I love
So,
that. It changes
so
your perspective, and also that it should be
yeah,
more widely taught, because I feel like internationally, because we're not in India, we hear a very specific trope about India, and that's like the only part of history that we hear. And then if we want to deep dive, it has to be outside the institutions. It's
right.
like the same old, stuff. This is what you know about India, and then goodbye. Next sub, you know what I mean? So like
So,
you're going to make it worldwide. You're going to take it
so
worldwide.
let me tell you some of the cool things that we had in India back a long time back. There were step wells. So I did my master's dissertation on these structures that are there. These are underground water structures, essentially like wells, except there are multiple levels to it. Okay,
Oh, wow.
so based on the kind of dress you're wearing, so they were usually wearing long skirts. So the steps were such that your skirt won't bother you on the way,
That's
right?
pretty good design.
And it was amazing because the water always stays cold. And this is in semi-arid regions, okay? And even arid regions. So the temperature was very bad. And there would be step wells. You can go in multiple floors, up to 7 floors underground.
Wow.
And honestly, and when I went there, I was wearing a sweater. Sorry, it was very sunny.
Yeah.
And downstairs, I had to wear a sweater because it was that cold.
Wow. That's
So,
that
I
is
mean,
Yeah, you
it's
wouldn't
amazing.
imagine that. Yeah, exactly. That
Yeah.
is something that like the rest of the world doesn't know.
We have hanging pillars. We have crazy stories. Like, tell me anything and you'll know it. We have Aryabhatta talking about zero in the 5th century. We have so many things. I mean, we have Arthashastra, which is like so mind-boggling, and of course, the Kama Sutra is Indian.
Oh yeah, everybody knows about the Kama Sutra. That's worldwide. I feel like this is what the world knows about India. It's Kama Sutra, it's all the temples, it's the Taj Mahal, and it's Bollywood. And that is like
And there's
India,
so much more to it.
right? And then
Like,
always the food has is really good too. I know that I used to work at an Indian restaurant. The food's excellent. Everybody drinks chai now. So like there's a lot of stuff that India has kind of permeated culture. But yeah, there's so much more, you know.
there's
Although the
magic.
stuff that we know now is pretty cool too. Because I watched some of the Bollywood movies as well. I'll start the dancing afterwards. That'll be our exit sequence. Um, so what's your final thought? This is your final question. Tell the world, what's next for you? Are there any that you can talk of? Because I know off screen that you've told me you've got a lot of exciting projects in your hands, but right now they're not published. They're not able to be talked about um, publicly. So, of what you can say, what exciting projects can we look for Professor Sejwal on? Any collaborations coming up that we can keep an eye on to see you again? What you can say, because I know a lot of it's top secret.
So, like you said, a lot of it is top secret. But I can promise you something. Maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, you'll probably hear of Indian stuff way more than you expect at the moment, and it's going to be so interesting that it's going to get you in the depths of it and completely change your perspective on India.
I love it. I love it. And we will be looking for you. Well, that is today's episode, from Brahmi to Kharosthi, from coins to code. Today's journey reminds us that history is not buried. It's encoded, waiting for someone to be bold enough to read between the lines. I just want to give you a heartfelt thank you to Professor Mehak Sejwal for taking us deep into the epigraphic soul of India, where stone and script come alive through innovation, insight, and immersive storytelling, which you are very passionate about. If today's episode inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Whether you're joining us from a dusty dig site, a museum archive, or even your own living room, you can find us and this episode on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and now we're even doing TikTok shorts. And also the professor is going to share this wherever she wants, so you can find it in many more platforms, because the past deserves a platform in every age. And as always, history just is in the books, it's in the soil, it's in the stone, and it's in the stories that we dare to uncover. Until next time, this is Dr. Tiffany Bannworth and Professor Sejwal, reminding you that it belongs in a museum or in situ. And we both have travels and we'll travel. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.